are nearly equally they are effective, and the angina pectoris, especially the pain, cardiac origin pain, it's a very horrible pain, angina pectoris. All beta blockers benefit angina or effort, especially the angina pectoris. And taken on a regular schedule, they decrease frequently of attacks and increase exercise tolerance. And the cardiac arrhythmias. So ultimately we have to come to this point where it is clinically it can be used. And also we should know about the drug interaction and the adverse effect of these drugs before we are going to prescribe. And the cardiac arrhythmias and beta blockers, namely propranolol, suppress extrasystolic and tachycardias, especially those mediated adrenergically. So the beta blockers, and if it is mediated by some other thing, then it is not going to respond. The cardiac arrhythmias. So the clinical use of the beta blockers is in hypertension, in angina pectoris, and cardiac arrhythmias. And of course, the myocardial infarction, you know what is a myocardial infarction. In relation to MI or the myocardial infarction, beta blockers have been used for the two purposes. That's the secondary prophylaxis of the myocardial infarction. So the first thing is the preventing the reinfarction. There is that once the myocardial infarction occurs, there is chance that once again it may reoccur, and preventing sudden ventricular fibrillation at subsequent attack of the myocardial infarction. And the second action is the myocardial salvage during evolution of myocardial infarction. So there is a special situation known as myocardial salvage, which is also secondary to the myocardial infarction, and this may limit the infarct size by reducing oxygen consumption. So it may limit the infarct size by reducing oxygen consumption. Then marginal tissue, which is particularly ischemic, may survive. Especially what happens, especially in case of the myocardial infarction, the tissue wherever the blood supply is not there, then it may die and become bluish black in color and may prevent arrhythmias including ventricular fibrillation. These are all the clinical uses of beta adrenergic receptor blockers. And once again, there are certain blockers, both blocking alpha plus beta adrenergic receptors. Alpha and beta adrenergic receptors are simultaneously they are blocked. And so labetalol is the first adrenergic agonist capable of both alpha and beta receptors. So please remember this drug, labetalol. It is the first adrenergic agonist capable of blocking both alpha and beta receptor non-selectively. There are 4 diastereomers for the labetalol, each of which has a distinct profile of action on subtype of the alpha and beta receptors. So the beta blocking potency is about 1/3 that of the propranolol, while blocking potency is about 1/10 of the phentolamine. So you can treat this particular thing, and labetalol is 5 times more potent in blocking beta than the alpha receptor. That means even though it's a non-specific blocker of alpha and beta adrenergic receptors, it is 5 times more potent in blocking beta. That means it's more specific to beta receptors rather than the alpha receptor. So it is moderately potent hypertensive and especially useful in pheochromocytoma and clonidine. Suddenly, if clonidine is withdrawn, see, it is moderately potent in case of hypotension. Then it is especially useful in pheochromocytoma, that's the adrenal medullary cell tumor, where in which the adrenal medulla secrete a lot of epinephrine and norepinephrine to the circulation. And clonidine, the drug, alpha adrenergic receptor agonist. So suddenly if it is withdrawn, then this type of the drugs need to be given. And another drug known as the carvedilol. So carvedilol, it's a beta 1 plus beta 2 plus alpha 1. See here, it is beta 1, beta 2, alpha 1 adrenoceptor blocker or antagonist and produces vasodilatation due to alpha 1 activity. So it's active on both beta 1. Then if it is going to act beta 1, then there should be decrease in the blood pressure. Of course, beta 2, no action, it should act on the constriction of the especially trachea, and alpha 1 adrenoceptor blocker means it's going to block the alpha 1 and the peripheral resistance is changed, and blockade as well as calcium channel blockade and has antioxidant property. So these drugs become a drug of choice, especially in the congestive heart failure. So it can be used in hypertension whenever there is a moderate to high blood pressure, and is the beta blocker especially employed as the cardioprotective in CHF, congestive heart failure. And that's about the particular topic is concerned, and just we will start the another topic, that's the cholinergic receptor antagonists and agonists. Yeah. So this is the cholinergic receptor. So this is automatically it's happening. So here cholinergic system, the cholinergic drugs are cholinomimetics and parasympathomimetics. They are also known as the parasympathomimetics, and these drugs which produce the action similar to that of the acetylcholine, either by directly interacting with cholinergic receptors, or they are known as the cholinomimetics, or increasing the availability of the what you call as acetylcholine. That's how it's going to act, especially the choline esters. The number one is choline esters. The something is happening. Okay. Choline esters are the acetylcholine, then methacholine, carbachol or carbamyl choline chloride, and betanicol. Whereas the alkaloids are from the plants. They are all derived from the plants, and some of the mushroom, especially the muscarine, Amanita muscaria, it's the muscarine, and the pilocarpine and arecolin. Arecolin is from Areca catechu, whereas the pilocarpine is from Pilocarpus jaborondii. That's also a plant-based alkaloid is concerned. And the muscarinic actions, especially on the heart. You know what is the action of the muscarinic, because the type of the receptor, it depends on the type of the receptor. Heart, the acetylcholine hyperpolarizes the sinoatrial nodal cells, and it decreases the rate of diastolic depolarization, especially depolarization. As a result, the rate of pulse generation is what you call as, it is decreased. Hence, we are going to have the decrease in the cardiac output at the AV node and his Purkinje fibers. It is the refractory period, that means the period in which the heart is going to stay quiescent is increased and conduction is slowed, and the PR interval increases partial to complete AV block may be produced because of these cholinergic receptor agonists, and the force of atrial contraction is markedly reduced, and the atrial fibers are abbreviated. So because of this thing, ultimately what happens, ventricular contractility is also decreased, but the effect is not marked. That means the through beta 1 type of the receptors agonists, the cardiac rate, cardiac contraction, and the heart rate is going to increase, whereas the cholinergic nerves, they are going to block this thing through the M2 type of the receptors and going to inhibit all the actions of the adrenaline. Then on the blood vessels, there is a very specific thing. All blood vessels are dilated through only few skin or face or neck. The salivary glands receive the cholinergic innervation, and there will be fall in the BP. And sometimes the muscarinic M3 type of the receptors are present on vascular beds, vascular endothelial cells. Then the vasodilatation is primarily mediated through the release of the drug, this endothelial dependent relaxing factor, or also it's known as the EDRF, and now it is very well established that the nitric oxide is the one which is released from the endothelial cells, and it is going to act on the beside cell, and it is going to the PLC IP3 diAG pathway is activated activates endothelial nitric oxide synthase through the calcium calmodulin mechanism, and then the acetylcholine can diffuse into vascular smooth muscle and cause the vasoconstriction via the M3 type of the receptors, whereas M2 type of the receptors are present on the heart and M3 type of the receptors are present on the blood vessels. And the smooth muscles, especially the smooth muscles in most organ is contracted mainly through the M3 type of the receptors. As we know, we were earlier during the introduction, we have seen the distribution of different type of the receptors. M1 receptor, M1 is always a secretory receptor. It's present on many of the glands and also on the smooth muscles of the intestine, whereas the M2 is a cardiac specific receptor. M3 is present in the vascular beds. And the smooth muscle is most organ is contracted mainly through M3 receptors, and tone and peristalsis of the gastrointestinal tract is increased, and especially the potential peristalsis, tone and gastrointestinal tract is increased, and sphincter will get relaxed. Then the detrusor muscle contracts while bladder trigone and sphincter muscle relaxes, widening the bladder, especially the urinary widening occurs, and bronchial muscles constrict. Asthmatics are highly sensitive to bronchospasms, dyspnea, and precipitation of attack of the bronchial asthma. So the bronchial smooth muscles are going to constrict. That's why the asthma may get aggravated. And many of the glands do have the secretion from all sympathomimetic glands, especially. Yeah, because of this thing, action of the glands, it is going to what you call as, especially these glands, lot of maybe the salivary gland or any other gland, it may have the especially secretion from all presynaptic glands are going to decrease. It's a problem. And the sweating, salivation, lacrimation, increased tracheobronchular and glomerular secretion, everything is going to increase. The effect on pancreases and intestinal gland is not so marked, and secretion of milk and bile is not affected because of the M3 or M2 type of the receptors. Whereas the eye is going to contract, the contraction of circular iris, especially the miosis occurs, means pupillary constriction and contraction of ciliary muscles, pause and pop accommodation, especially the accommodation, and increased outflow facility and reduced intraocular tension. That means these drugs can be used in case of the glaucoma, where in which there is increased intracranial pressure is noted. Then the nicotinic actions, especially